I am live. I am now in am I in part 5 already? I'm reading Time Out of Mind, which is the autobiography by Joan Grant. She was a seer, and she used to write about her previous incarnations. Yes, I finished chapter 6, The Queen and the Cobra, which was quite scary. Chapter of Accidents was chapter 7, and I think I had to stop where my battery was empty. So I continued chapter 7 of part 4, and I have forgotten exactly where I stopped. A husband who is neither drowned nor drunk, and so has no shadow of excuse for causing his wife torments of anxiety, is foolish if he greets her with a brisk phrase, "My goodness, you look funny." There was a long mirror on the wall, and in it I saw a fantastic female, with hair hanging like seaweed over her face, the dress she had meant to wear in Naples plastered. She was in a sandstorm. It was rather horrific. And I don't know whether I've read it before, but I'll read it again anyway. So he says she looks dreadful. There was a long mirror on the wall, and in it I saw a fantastic female with hair hanging like seaweed over her face, the dress she had meant to wear in Naples plastered like a wet shroud to her quivering body. A nice dress, and now ruined by seawater. I lost the last thread of my self-control and slapped him. The barman winked and tactfully retreated. Leslie, white with anger except where the marks of my fingers were beginning to redden, said icily, "In a belated attempt to teach you manners, I shall not speak to you for a week." Nor did he. In silence we saw Pompeii, except when I made bright remarks and answered them myself, never a satisfactory form of conversation. We went to Pisa, where in the Campo Santo I saw a wall painting which was so horrifying that had we been on speaking terms, I should have tried to find out why it affected me. But we were not speaking, so only when, in 1939, I was writing Life as Carola did I recognize it for the one, or else almost exactly similar one, which had frightened me as a child in the 16th century. We were exchanging basic information, but still not being chatty, when our ship reached Genoa. I saw Leslie talking to an Italian who had just come on board. I thought it was a tour, trying to sell him something. But on hearing that Leslie was an archaeologist, had offered to take him to see some of Pompeian dances, a survival of an ancient religious cult, which were a jealously guarded secret and never, of course, revealed to tourists. "Well, he looks like a tout," I replied. "You can easily prove I'm wrong. For if it's a racket, he won't let me come too." "I will go and ask him. The tickets are expensive, £2 each, but it would be a pity to miss such a unique opportunity." The man looked rather surprised when he heard Leslie wished me to join the party, but needed little persuasion. "I told him you were not so narrow-minded as some Englishwomen," said Leslie, now much more genial than he'd been for days. "I expect some of the dancers' costumes will be a hit, will be a bit scanty, but it will be art, of course." It was about 11 at night when the antiquarian came to fetch us in a very dilapidated car. We drove for several miles, but always in circles. I have a well-developed bump of locality, and very soon noticed that it was the same statue we kept on seeing as we crossed and recrossed a steep and narrow street leading up from the docks. Leslie, who was sitting beside the driver, was too busy making intelligent remarks in his limited Italian to notice where we were going. Even if I had warned him, he would probably have told me that the man had every right to try to prevent us being able to lead the uninitiated to the scene of the mysteries. 3 unshaven brigands met us at the door of a squalid house and hustled us upstairs. We were thrust through a door, but there was no amphitheatre, no stage. It was a room only just large enough to contain 2 chairs and a bed. A blousy madam in a pink wrapper trimmed with grubby marabon brought in a program and asked in French which item we should prefer to see first. The programme was a sheaf of well-thumbed photographs, no doubt the prototypes of those sold at Port Said. Leslie blushed scarlet and said there had been some mistake. "This lady is my wife," he insisted. "We came to see the dancers." "My girls and my boys can do anything you wish to see. Girls and boys and boys, 2 boys, 1 girl," she cried indignantly, more shrill than a market woman defending the ripeness of her tomatoes. "We don't want to see anything," said Leslie desperately. "In my country, the femmes du monde do not inspect the antiques of the femmes du demi-monde," I added in governess French and devastating pomposity. As we tried to get out of the room, the madam let out a screech, and the 3 brigands stood solidly in the doorway. The largest and most evil-looking growled in passable English, £10 if you see, and that includes a bottle of Asti. £20 if you insult us by not seeing. Then he banged the door in our faces. "You'll have to go through with it now," said Leslie despairingly. "Damn it, it won't kill you, and you can keep your eyes shut. You shouldn't have come." "I won't stay." "Oh, for God's sake, shut up. If you make a scene, then they'll probably knife us in case we go to the police." Fury empowered me and made me feel at least twice my normal size and infinitely stronger. I flung open the door, knocking over the madam, who was listening at the keyhole. Perhaps the brigands thought I had a revolver, for they backed away down the narrow passage so quickly that one of them fell headlong down the stairs. He was groaning as we jumped over his prostrate body, and I sincerely hoped that at least he broke a leg. In case they were watching us from a window, we walked moderately slowly until we reached the corner of the street. Then we ran until we saw the statue, and I knew we were within 100 yards of the docks. We were fond of each other again, when from the window of our wagon lit on our way to Paris we saw the Villa Olivier, where we had spent our honeymoon. We decided to have another one, such as we might have had in Cairo. But fate had kept another joker against us. We arrived on the Thursday before Easter and reached the bank just as it shut. It would not open again until after the weekend, and we had no traveller's checks, only a letter of credit. Each of us imagined the other still had some money, but between us we had only the equivalent of 10 shillings. "How absolutely damnable," said Leslie, sitting on the bed in the little hotel where we had intended only to sleep. "We can't even buy our tickets home until the blasted banks open. We're marooned." "No, we're not," I said smugly. "I've been stuck without money so often that I hid 4 fivers in the false bottom of my jewellery case before I left England." "I found those while we were in Cairo," said Leslie forlornly. We did not starve, nor even hunger, for the patron of the little hotel was delighted that we were so undiscriminating as to wish to stay en pension. A really bad cook is rare in France, but the one employed there would have felt quite at home in the most deplorable restaurant in England. Perhaps I'm being unjust, and it was the boot boy who did the cooking, for certainly no one else ate in the dreary dining room, which was unlicensed. Paris, even between the wars, offered few gaieties for 10 shillings. We looked wistfully in shop windows, tramped round the Louvre and the Musée de Cluny, seldom strayed far because we had to keep within walking distance of our next horrible meal. On Easter Sunday, carrying a packet of sandwiches, we took the metro to the Bois and had a picnic under a tree that was dripping with rain. I added to our misery by catching a streaming cold. Even when the banks opened their doors in our prison, I had to stay in bed for 3 days, eating jars of caviar which Leslie brought me as a consolation prize. On the front page of the Daily Mail I saw a headline: "Famous scientist rescues Mother Superior from blazing convent." It was Father. I grabbed the telephone and, by a miracle, got a clear line to Hailing. The convent had burned down at 3 o'clock in the morning, and Father had helped to carry the Reverend Mother to safety. A nun had been burned to death. The children, all under 7, were sorted into sexes and bedded down in the music room and the billiard room at Seacourt. Mother, so Father told me, had been at the top of her form, putting all the nuns to bed and giving them powerful sedatives, in spite of their protests, and providing breakfast for over 100, not counting the firemen. Local tradesmen were roused before dawn to bring extra eggs and bacon. There's nothing to worry about. Your dear mother is thoroughly enjoying herself. I will send Gillian with Miss S. to Croydon. Your mother is too busy. God knows how long they are all staying there. And there is no point in either of us catching your cold. I had already heard from Diana that the dolls I had ordered, made from drawings of Rugger and Muffin, had arrived at Beaufort Street, where Diana and Stan had been living while we were away, and would be taken to Croydon so that Gillian would think they had actually flown home with me. As the aeroplane banked before landing, I saw her frantically waving from the roof of the customs building. I was so wildly happy to be back with her that I was afraid of bursting into tears. But after we had hugged each other, I was able to say in quite an ordinary voice, "Oh bother, those naughty children have lost themselves again. Rugger, Muffin, where are you?" She found them, sitting behind a pile of suitcases. "Oh, Mummy, they're real." Bless her heart. She never told me until years later that she was secretly disappointed to find that Rugger and Muffin were not people, as they had been in my stories, but only dolls. So that was the last part of the chapter 4. Next one is the chapter 5. Today is Sunday, and it is the 6th of August.